Hello everyone, my name is Peter Bom and exclusive for Australian Motorcycle News I'm making you a summary here on what happened on the MotoGP in Sachsenring in Germany, where we had the second day, the Saturday, wet Saturday. Just as all the expectations were, it was all day wet, which shakes up things nicely, a lot. In the MotoGP we had first qualifying one, in where we had Zarco and Vinales going in, make it on the way from Q1 to Q2 in the wet, which for Zarco on the Honda is a bit of a surprise. The Honda Zarco is very, very good. The Honda is sometimes quite good, usually very, very difficult. I mean, they're on their way trying so hard to get back. But Zarco, with all his experience, did something really clever there, stayed out and just made it into Q2. And then qualifying 2 started, where it's so important to have this short session and to be in the front guy. And started immediately with drama with Maverick Vinales on the KTM. He was already in Q2 because he did yesterday a very good job on the KTM. I think turn 3, 4, probably 5. He just left pit lane and immediately high-sided, probably even on the engine brake. So he was surprised by how little grip there was in one of the first corners when he went out. Remember that all the MotoGP riders, Q1, Q2, whoever way you are, had already a wet session on Saturday morning, so there was some knowledge. But the thing is, we call it a wet race, but wet races are changing every couple of minutes. Every 5 or 10 minutes the conditions are changing. It's never stable, raining exactly the same amount all day. It stops raining, it rains again, it stops raining, it rains only on this corner, and then it nearly dries out and then some corners getting wet and so on. So it's constantly changing and you have to adapt to that. So Maverick Vinales was caught out by the conditions on the beginning of Q2, immediately high-sided it. And I think he didn't even start again in Q2, so he didn't even start in the sprint, so he hurt himself with that. The second guy that made a crash in Q2 was our Jack Miller in the first flying lap. So he had his out lap, started his first time attack and already high-sided again. So, but Jack made it back in time to the box to get back on his second bike, and he made the qualifying session on his second bike in the wet. With P9, not so bad. Second Yamaha P9, so Jack gave us a little bit of a scare there, but he came back in the end. The qualifying session ended with Marc Marquez first, Zarco, again, the smart Zarco second, and Marco Bezzecchi third. Well, Zarco was smart because he stayed out on a medium rear tire where everybody else was on soft rear tires. He chose the medium because he likes the stability of it. It's not really the edge grip that you need, but it gives like a stable situation. And once you have the medium up to temperature, he explained this later, it's actually not so bad. So he preferred to stay out on the medium, even when he realized it was probably better to go in to take a soft tire. But if you go in, take a soft tire, then you first have to heat it up again, get used to it, and then, I mean, the whole Q2 is 10 minutes. So he gambled, and he gambled quite rightly. So we had Zarco on the second place, really, really smart. Bezzecchi third, showing 2 things: how really good Aprilia is and how much confidence he has and how much of a step he made after finishing twice on the podium in Assen. So there we are. And then it was sprint time. Wet sprint. So Marc won, no surprise. It's Sachsenring and it's wet, so Marc wins it. But he gave us some tension there because he was on pole and went first into the first corner, but it's so easy to overshoot the first corner here in the Sachsenring. So he went wide, slotted back into P4, P5 or something, and then, 15 laps. Sounds like a lot, but it's a very short lap with a short lap time. You don't have a lot of time to come back, but he came back. He took his time, like checking out the conditions, don't want to make another mistake. He won it. He won it by overtaking Bezzecchi in the last lap. Just when the last lap started, he overtook Marco Bezzecchi for the win. But still, he had 1 or 2 scary moments on the way from P5 to the win. So Marc is Marc, he's fast, especially in Sachsenring, especially in the wet, but also had a lot of moments. So it's never a given. Marco Bezzecchi obviously leading all the race, getting caught by Marc Marquez, a bit of a disappointment, but still, he made a huge step. The Aprilia is very, very good now in the wet, especially in this funny track. So they can just be happy with the second place. I mean, he's disappointed because losing the lead, leading all the race and then losing it in the last lap is always a bit of a downer. But when you're Marco Bezzecchi and with Aprilia, you will still smile. Third place, and that's a special mentioning him. Let's check my list here. Fabio Quartararo, because he started only from whatever the middle of the second or the third row, and he had a brilliant start and had a really aggressive, very good lines into turn 1, 2, 3, which in Sachsenring is like a sequence of corners, 1, 2, 3, 4 basically. And he took a lot of people's around the outside, inside, outside, so quickly he was up to second or third place. So Fabio Quartararo finishing third after a super first couple of corners. That's strong. Another strong ride came from Aussie Jack Miller, starting on 9th position, which he managed in Q2 after crashing. He finished 5th, so strong ride on the Yamaha, and the Yamaha strong on P3 and P9 here in the wet conditions. So this brings me to something a little bit new. Let's say, who was the fastest rider of the day? That's sort of a thing I'm probably going to do a little bit more, and obviously it has to be Marc Marquez. Although it is scary to watch him, he was again the fastest rider of the day. He had that extra lap time that he could make a mistake, sit down, watch a little bit what's going on, put his head down, overtake riders more or less where he wants them to be, and nearly ran out of laps to win the race, but he did not, so he was by far the fastest. That is another guy I would call the gritty character ride of the day, Fabio Quartararo, because remember, this morning in the wet free practice session that counts for nothing, but it was fully wet, he was just nowhere, and he was even angry on his bike, some problem with probably the ride height device, not being fast, not happy with the bike. But the thing is with Fabio Quartararo, and I admire that a lot, is when it comes to the time that you have to perform, whether it's qualifying, whether it's a sprint, whether it's a race, and you're on a very difficult bike, it's so easy to sort of give up, to not really believing it. He always lines up like, yeah, I can win this thing. Even if I was nowhere this morning, he goes into Q2 wet, thinking I can put this thing on pole. That's an attitude that I love a lot, and it also shows in the way he's riding. He's immediately on the limit of that bike, left and right, wheels in the air. But this is the sort of rider that you really need at the moment on the Yamaha, because the Yamaha can be really, really good, but it's only very good here, and then it's not very good over there. It has just a very small window where it operates, and even Yamaha themselves sometimes don't understand why the bike is slow, or even more funny, why it suddenly is fast. So for a rider to get on the bike again and still believe, yeah, I can do this. Yes, I with the bike can do it. If you know your bike is struggling and it's not clear when it's fast, when it's not going to be good, that is very hard for your head. And Fabio Quartararo again showed today that he's not only just a very fast, gifted rider, but he also has a very strong head, a very, very stable, and I love that type of rider. So on to the next guy, smartest, well, almost smartest rider of the day. Zarco, staying out on the medium rear tire in all qualifying too, not coming in, not going to a soft tire, give him the second place, put him on the front row in qualifying too. Really, really strong. And then he gambled again, probably because he knows if I go to a soft rain tire for the sprint, I probably don't have a really, really good chance, and I'm not fighting for a position in the championship anyway. So he was the only guy going for the medium rear rain tire. I think even Marini in the end, the other Honda rider who has nothing to lose, chose sort of the same. So from all the good guys, Zarco was the only guy choosing for the medium rain tire. And I think he was gambling on something like Le Mans where he won. Like, if it stops raining hard and it maybe even dries out a little bit, although the sprint race is short, I have the best tire in the end. So he chose the medium rain tire, only him. Didn't work out. He was like a sitting duck. He was like a chicane. Everybody passing him left and right and left and right. First couple of laps. And really only in the end of the sprint, he did a couple of really good lap times, but then it was already too late. So very, very smart how he put himself over Q1 into Q2, in Q2 on the front row. But then he made one gamble too much for the sprint race. But it's always fun to have a guy like him there. There was also a lot of news. There was news that came out yesterday, and it's more or less official. I mean, one thing is official. Jorge Martin will be back on the Aprilia next week in Brno, which is a big thing because the Aprilia that he didn't want to be on turns out to be a really, really good bike now. So keep our fingers crossed. But the biggest news is I don't think it's still officially confirmed that Martin, although his group of management fights like a shit fight with Aprilia at the moment, the latest thing is they said, okay, then we stay with Aprilia for next year. So could be that although they're throwing mud at each other for some months now, he will end up with Aprilia, which will be very, very weird. But also, I like it. I like one thing from it a lot. I mean, I'm a sort of a romantic guy. I want that the special riders, there is not a lot of them, are sort of equally spread out over different manufacturers. Now, obviously, Ducati has Marc Marquez, so no problem there. Yamaha has Fabio Quartararo, a really, really special rider. And Aprilia used to think they have Jorge Martin. Then they think we don't have him, but now it looks like they will still have him. So yeah, that's something I like a lot to happen, if it's going to happen. That was it from today's sprint race. Tomorrow's main race not probably, is quite likely going to be dry. So we have a whole new color, a whole new game tomorrow for the race. We have the same grid, so Zarco will start from P2. But I don't think he has a pace to do something special in the dry. But if you start the dry with a Honda on the front on a track that doesn't need a lot of horsepower, knowing Zarco, he probably can be the surprise of the day. That is also like a problem guy from the day, which is Pecco Bagnaia. I mean, he finished in qualifying 11th position and he finished 12th in the sprint race. Wow. So that is, I don't know where to start. That is a huge problem from him. Then there's, fortunately for Australian fans, there's also Moto2 and Moto3. Moto2, we had Senna Agius in Q2 and leading Q2 for a huge time of the 10 minutes. A huge percentage of the time. He was leading the session up until the last minutes where he crashed. When he crashed, he was still in P1. In the end, he ends up in P4. And he's just one of a group of 4 riders that is really a step above everybody else in the wet. So, but tomorrow they have a dry race. He will start from the second row, but even on the dry, Senna Agius, remember last year, was probably one of his first like spectacular performances here in Sachsenring. He loves this. He loves it in the wet. He loves it probably in the dry as well. Let's see tomorrow what he can do there. Then there was qualifying in Moto3 as well. Joel Kelso finishing 13, which doesn't sound so special, but in his last 2 laps he had a lot of red sectors. I think he ran into a yellow flag which cost him 1 lap. His last lap, 2 red sectors. I can't check it really, but somehow he didn't really put the whole lap really good together. So anyway, tomorrow is dry, so then there's a new race again. And Jacob Roulstone, 18 in qualifying, not having his best moment here as the second year in the Moto3. I don't know why, what happened there, but it's wet. So if you're not fast in the wet, you still have all the chances open to be fast in the dry, because between wet and dry is really like a different category. It's really like comparing speedway to motocross or something. You know, there's always different riders that automatically go fast in the wet or never are really confident in the wet. So the result from Moto2 and Moto3 today were all done from the wet, but tomorrow's race quite likely is going to be dry, and I look forward to watch them. Really keen on what's happening tomorrow in the dry, especially also in MotoGP. So thanks for watching and hope to see you again tomorrow with the summary of the Sunday in Sachsenring, Germany.